Hi everyone, I'm back with a new movie spoiler review, and this was on Netflix, but kind of took it off at an inopportune time when I was want to watch it for the review. Uh, is the movie called "Cook Up a Storm"? It's a movie coming from China, and it's a good food related movie. And watching it, I can't help but I can't help but think about the anime Food Wars, which I did a review of up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkative Carl, mind you. And you can follow me in the various links in the description below. As well, check out my Patreon if you want to further support the channel. But yeah, man, yeah, I love cooking competitions. They're so much fun to watch. And I mean, I'm not like a cooking aficionado or anything like that, but I do appreciate the art of it, and I do love food. But yeah, man, this is it was like a fun movie to watch, and there's definitely some anime influences involved. It's kind of like RRR in a way. It was came out in 2017, and it was the RRR of the time. Honestly, it should have gotten like you know, uh, more accolades. Honestly, this is a really good film. Uh, Kind of like jumping the gun a bit, but let me tell you what was going on. But it's directed by Raymond Yip. It stars uh, Nicholas Tsai as uh, Sky Ko, Paul, Jung Yang Hua as Paul An, Anthony Wong as Mountain Ko, Ji Yu plays Uncle Seven. Even the name sounds very anime. We got Michelle Bai as Mei Yu. So we're uh, we're introduced to Skyco, who runs the Seven Eatery. This nice restaurant in this neighborhood in Hong Kong, and the set design is really good. It's like they use the budget very wisely, and you're focused on very few locations, and they put the bulk of the funds in the particular sets that you primarily going to be focusing on, and it's lively too. It's like the practical effects is amazing. Uh, so I can't help but think of Sky as like Soma Yukihira in a way. If you know Food Wars, you know who I'm talking about. So Sky is an amazing chef, uh, running his own eatery, and he suffers no fools and comes to his establishment, and they're being rude. Or like this one dude, it's part of this like gang or some kind of affiliate that he's come bum rushing in front of the line trying to get a seat, and just out of slick stuff, Sky comes over pretending like he's taking his order, like, and he writes down the slip like key. It's like you gotta wait in line like everybody else because people ahead of you. You gotta wait your turn, wait in the key, and he ain't backing down to this wannabe gangster and tell him to get the heck out. So he's pretty much like like the boss. Well, he is the boss, but you know what I'm saying. Like he's like, he grew up in these streets, so he's beloved by the neighborhood and everything like that. So he's pretty much like, the town idol essentially. But he's like the everyman. Uh, he has this little group of friends and everything like that, like that helps him like in the shop and whatnot, especially this young girl who works behind the counter taking orders, and she is so cute. She's like the girl next door type. Comes look like the Chinese version of Velma Dinkley, and clearly these two have some kind of thing for each other, but don't really like lean too hard into it because it's not really about that. We can just like infer these two would like probably would get like together eventually, but they're not super hyper focused on like uh, a relationship between these two. But they got some camaraderie, and we meet Paul, who grew up in Europe as half Chinese, half Korean, and cooking for dignitaries. He's come from a good family, very affluent and top tier in the culinary world, but he chooses to make his own name for himself, his own restaurant in Hong Kong. So this Lee Corporation, who's like the main antagonist of the film, help gentrify essentially Sky's neighborhood. So his shop is going to be built right across from Sky's, which looks like very out of place, honestly, because it looked like a very fancy eatery compared to like this very homely type of restaurant right across the street. And so Paul and his girlfriend Mei Yu, they help get things together, bring in the customers, even though they're wrong because they have like tables and stuff. Certain cafes have tables outside the restaurants and things of that sort. Because the neighborhood is kind of narrow, they got tables set up where or people driving in or whatnot. They're ruining the business of the Seven restaurant. Matter of fact, now I'm thinking about it, the name Seven, it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy VII, where Seventh Heaven, the Tifa's place, Tifa's bar. I'm curious if, because obviously the director has some kind of love for anime, because there's some anime isms going on here, and with the whole name of Seven, because I kept thinking about like Sector 7 or something like that. But it's kind of fun. Anyway, the neighborhood ain't too happy with this fancy restaurant taking up all the business, pretty much the whole negative side of gentrification and like the upscale people kind of pushing like the local residents out. Sky shows up, and of course Sky and Paul had like a little meetup earlier. They didn't even know who each other was, because they end up at the same fish market trying to look for this particular fish, which is only one left. The guy ultimately kind of cut it in half for these two because he doesn't want because these two had like a little mind battle between each other, like how each other prepare this particular fish, and in their mind they have like a food war essentially, and they illustrate how they would prepare this particular fish in a particular way. And of course I love that sequence, but the marketeer is like cut it in half, like end the sequence, like, okay, I ain't trying to have you guys like ruin my business because y'all bickering. Here, y'all both get equal parts of this fish. But then when Sky shows up, seeing all the commotion in the neighborhood, he sees Paul again, and it's like, oh god, this dude. So immediately our rivalry starts up. So they have like basically like a food war, in a sense, where like a real one, where uh, we see how they prepare this big fish. So Paul used this particular knife, because it's a legit knife here, where it's uniquely designed for of skinning a fish and things of that sort. And he peels the skin and like along with like the bone, but he takes tweezers and meticulously, with rapid speed, picks the stray bones that's still in the meat that visually you probably won't see them all, but he's able to pick it like so rapidly, pick 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 pick, pick. It's like incredible, and this guy had to acknowledge like, wow, that's impressive. So he once he debones the fish, he passes it to over the sky to see like, okay, how, what's your next step, how would you do this? So first guy feels it out just to make sure there isn't no stray bones that he might have overlooked, but no, it's clean, perfect precision. Speaking of perfect precision, he takes another knife and he starts cutting it, not the whole way through, well, yeah, kind of the whole way through, these sections to cube up to turn the fish meat into like cubes, and like a finely cut, finally cut it, which impresses Paul. And he does it in such a way where like the bottom half of the fish's skin, he just plops it up and the chunks of fish meat falls into, perfectly into the plate. Not before he, salts it, of course, so that way the salt can get into the nooks and crannies of the cuts he made. It's like impressively done. And the person that Paul was serving was kind of like a dignitary or something like that, and he's pretty much judging it. So he decides that they both should join the this culinary competition that's coming up to show like, okay, who's the better cook. So we get a little bit into Sky's background, where he was abandoned by his father, Mountain Ko, who didn't see his son as like he wanted so badly to be like the top chef in the culinary world, and he feels like his son was like holding him back essentially. So he made up an excuse talking about how like his son can barely cook a bowl of noodles, and Uncle Seven, I don't think he's actually like related to Mountain, but he's like the best friend, so he might as well have been like an uncle to Sky. He pretty much had to raise the boy because Mountain, feel like he has like his own dream, and he didn't want to give it up for his son, or he couldn't even do both because he's shirking his responsibilities, which leaves Sky bitter and doesn't even view Mountain as his father, but sees Uncle Seven as his father because he's the only one who actually took care of him and taught him his cooking skills. Of course, Uncle Seven tries to reunite the father and son, but it doesn't like work out the way you think. So in the competition, Sky and Paul has their own little cooking stations. Paul ends up preparing this foie gras sorbet, while Sky makes this traditional salt bait salt baked duck. Now they end up tying in score, leaving one of the judges to be like the final decider, and it ultimately goes to Paul because Sky didn't really have like a good presentation of his food, because that's another thing that has to be accounted for. You eat with your eyes, which is true, and any good cook, any chef in the world will tell you that the dishes you prepare has to be pleasing to the eyes, because if it doesn't look good, why would anybody want to put it in their mouth? Even though Sky's food is always good, Paul ultimately wins by a slight edge because his presentation was so immaculate. This leaves Sky disappointed because now it kind of, I guess, drudges up these old feelings, like like his father was proven right about how he won't be a good cook. Then Paul has this kind of I view it as kind of like a bit of like a peace offering or olive branch, while Paul and May, send invitations to Sky and his probably would-be girlfriend. I'm just gonna call her his girlfriend, to come over to their establishment. They'll have like a nice seat and they can order. They'll provide them with some nice cuisine, which I thought was kind of nice, because like, okay, we'll return the favor with them, but I thought that was where it was going. So Paul prepares a dish between a dish for Sky and his girlfriend. Now, I love what the girlfriend did here, where May try to speak in French, or at least trying to, because the menu, there's some French, titles there, and the girlfriend speaks in French to her, showing don't think we're just some, like coming from like a podunk town or something like that. Like we can't, like we're not learned or anything like that. I love that. Just the look on that, uppity girl's face. They're like, it's like, that was a smooth move. But then as she walks away, she leans towards Sky. Sky asks, like, where did you learn French? It's like, this morning. I studied just a little bit, to since they gave us the invitation. I thought that was a smooth move, because she probably anticipated they'll try to pull like a stunt like that, trying to be all bourgeois on them. That quickly to shut them up really quick. I love that moment. But Paul provides them with seemingly looks like fried sunny side eggs. And of course, Sky just immediately was unimpressed. Like, he just cooked us sunny side eggs. This is a joke. So they just tried it. And isn't sunny side eggs. It was like a mango something. Because the mango is probably like what the yolk appearance was. But it wasn't egg. It was a completely like a mango with something else. I can't remember what it was. But it was apparently delicious. And then May brings in look like a pot of soil, where she pours water in it, and it's actually salad. And when she pours water in it, the roots and the vegetables kind of grow a little bit, because like all of it is edible. I thought it was kind of impressive, but Sky ain't having none of it. He took this thing and goes in the back of the kitchen. Amazingly, nobody stopped him, and he immediately challenges Paul again. So he whips up something, and like, because there was like some type of meat, roasting in this little at least keeping cool or at a particular temperature in a sealed bag in the kitchen. And he prepared it, and Paul seems like a gracious rival. Because honestly, he's not like Vegeta or anything like that, where he's kind of like snobby or nothing. He's got a good heart. And it's like, as Sky is cutting up like some celery or something like that, and he's like putting in a frying, uh, uh, like the not batter but oils. And as soon as, because he's still cutting up, and he notices that it's nearly done, Paul graciously lifts up the strainer, hands it over to him. It's like, here, it's done. I didn't want you to ruin it because I want to be fair. It's like, whatever. But I thought, very gracious rival I've ever seen. Honestly, like, he's not one to sabotage an opponent. So he cuts it up and presents it to Paul. Paul makes something himself, presents it to Sky. Sky eats it, acknowledges it's good. He just leaves. He can't even like bring himself to like, say like, oh my god. It's like, he can't tell them it's actually good, but everybody knows. It's like he got nothing to say. Paul is just one step ahead of him in a sense. Which, this puts him in, Sky in his feelings, instead of just, allowing him to instead of allowing it to encourage him to push himself further in his cooking skills. But then things turn for the worse for Paul, where he had this little notebook that he's been etching. Every once in a while, you notice in the film, he kind of has something he sketches his down, and it turns out May betrays him to the manager of this like Lee Corporation, who they are in a secret were in a secret relationship together, and she was using Paul in order to get ahead, to learn what he needs to learn so she can overtake him. And Lee wanted May to be the face of the Stellar restaurant, which is what Paul's place was called. And he figures, the Lee Corporation figures, hey, it's best to have like a woman in charge as the face of this operation, because it'll be a lot more appealing to customers. So, feeling utterly betrayed, Paul goes out drinking, and this is long after Sky has like a blow up on his father, after Uncle Seven tried to reunite them, because Mountain Co's back in town for his cooking competition coming up, and he will challenge the winner of the competition to like a one-on-one cooking duel. And when Sky sees Paul drinking out in front of this billboard of his idol, which Sky tells him that that's his father, he abandoned him. So they decide to, they spark up a friendship, and that's where they go back to the Seven restaurant, where the Lee Corporation wants to buy up Uncle Seven's establishment. But Paul and Sky decide to team up to challenge them, because technically you can't really force anybody to sign anything, because he's still the face of it, and he's still is going to be part of the competition anyway. So they can't really, legally, they can't really take anything, at least yet. So after Paul headbutts the manager, who pretty much backstabbed him and took his girl, Sky and Paul decide to help each other, because it turns out that May spilled the beans on Paul's dirty little secret that he's been jotting down in his notes, because he lost certain, ability to taste certain taste buds, like salt, for example. He can't taste salt. She figured that out when they tried to taste the salted butter and like he kind of pretended like it's like unsalted or something like that. Or she kind of noticed that Paul always has somebody else do like the tasting for him. She never noticed him tasting something himself, at least not in a long while. So that kind of further encourages the Lee Corporation to kind of push him out, because a chef who can't taste his own food, what good is he? Or doesn't kind of look good for their appearance or whatnot. I might see that as like a setback for like a particular chef, but I can also see that as like a coming of age story, where it's like they overcome that handicap and still manage to be the top chef of the world, or at least one of them, despite the handicap. But they kind of viewed it as like a negative, because they, only view everything as in terms of money and the bottom line. So they kind of swindled their way into getting May into the competition, because she is the only one there, but everybody else, from different countries are paired up. Sky and Paul team up with the Chinese country, while there's 2 people coming from India, 2 people from Japan, 2 people from France. And of course, May just by herself. And thanks to, while preparing, Sky and Paul help each other with their faults. Paul helps Sky in his presentation, while Sky, helps with the tasting, or at least trying to help Paul get around that handicap so he can take his skills to the next level despite that. So they entered the competition, and ultimately they won thanks to their mapo tofu dish. They like a deconstructed mapo tofu. And of course, because of this loss, May feels ashamed, because not only she betrayed somebody who still surpassed her, she also feels like she's still stuck in his shadow. So she can't even bring herself to look in Paul's eyes, because the other betrayal she caused him. But now Paul decides to have Sky to be the one to go up against his father, seeing how personal it is for him. So now is Sky's chance to show his father how far he came. Of course, when the competition started, seemingly Sky kind of froze, because he's in such deep thought, seeing like everybody he could easily disappoint, and all the insecurities ever since his father left him, it's kind of like overtaking his mind, until his father's gonna splash some water in his face in front of everybody. It's like, hey, focus, get to cooking, trying to get him to like, hey, focus, like we're in the present right now, show me what you got. So while Mountain Co prepares this this artistic this sugar display that looks like molten lava with a flower on top, which is easily beloved by the judges, Sky prepares, ironically, kind of bring it full circle, the type of noodles that his father always made when he was a kid, that he last gave to him before he left, and has his father taste the bowl too. And when he tasted it, he's enveloped with, emotion and tears. It's like showing like all those memories of his son comes rushing back, and he tells his son he's proud of him as Sky walks off the stage, leaving the results of the competition unclear, which I guess is fine, because I guess it ultimately doesn't matter. It's just like, it's more important that we see like Sky overcome this personal hurdle. It wasn't even about the competition in of itself. He wasn't, trying to be like the top cook in the world. He just wanted to prove something to his father. So ultimately, Paul decides to take his skills not elsewhere, but it's like he decides to do, pivot somewhere else when it comes to cooking. But all the rest of the protagonists are celebrating the Chinese New Year of the Rooster at the time, as they managed to keep the Lee Corporation from taking over their establishment, which was, I guess, part of the deal or something like that. Because now they're embarrassed and no one wants to work with this stellar restaurant to further expand it, because now it's kind of like disgraced themselves, essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much where the movie ends. Like I said, this is like a fun film. And I don't normally watch films when it comes to having to be forced to read subtitles, because I guess you have to rely on, or at least if you ever watch the sub instead of the dub animes, you learn to, feel the emotion of the actors themselves and split your mind into reading at least multitask by reading the subtitles and things of that sort. I'm a dub person, but every once in a while, I come to watch some international films, especially when it comes to like known subtitle films. But this one's really good. It's been a minute since I've seen like a movie with just subtitles involved. But yeah, I highly recommend checking out Cook Up a Storm. It was on Netflix. Netflix is notorious for dropping certain things off their platform instead of just leaving it up there just for good. But I'm pretty sure you guys can look this up eventually or rent it somewhere and definitely check it out yourself. Especially if you like anime, there's tons of anime tendencies involved with this film that you will enjoy, because this is such fun. And people involved know some cooking techniques, because a lot of these techniques are legit real stuff that chefs do when it comes to preparing these foods. So it's very well done and very well researched. But stay tuned, because in a few minutes I have one more film to review before we wrap up November review month, and it's the perfect time for Thanksgiving because it's another food related film. But I will see you guys later. Follow me in the links in the description below. Let me know what you think in the comments about Cook Up a Storm, and I will see you all soon. Peace.